What a time for Marvel. Even if you're just a casual fan, there has been so much to be excited about these days. We have had some epic projects given to us with everything from Black Panther to Infinity War to Endgame to all the TV shows. We've got WandaVision, Falcon Winter Soldier, Loki, and then What If, and then we had Shang-Chi, Eternals is coming up, the Spider-Man No Way Home trailer, it just gets crazier and crazier, and now we've got the epic post-credit scene from Venom. I'll show you how I built out the opening Marvel logo animation using a scrolling interaction in Webflow. So if you want to see how I did it, then designers, assemble. I'm not even going to attempt it. I gotta let Chris take this one.
Avengers! Assemble.
So here is the interaction once again. As I scroll the length of the track in place, all the elements will fade in and out. We've got the Marvel logo right there. And you'll see the video starts playing. We've got that static image within the letters. And then the background color is also fading into view. And then we've just got the color changing to white in the text. So that way it ends on the classic Marvel clean logo, just like that. So looking at the structure of this, I have one long track that will be 700 VH. That'll be 700 times the viewport height. That just gives us a lot of room to scroll and work with all the images behind there. And at the top of this will be a frame div with a fixed to top positioning. So this will act like a window. It'll hold the Marvel logo in place. So that way, as we scroll down and the comic images move by, the Marvel logo will stay in the center of the screen. So here we are in our blank Webflow document. First thing I'm going to do is go to the body, and I'm going to add a background color. It's just going to be that classic Marvel deep maroon. I'll lower the alpha value to 30, just so it's a little faded out, and we can have it fade up as we scroll later on. So next I'm going to add our frame div. This will keep the Marvel logo in place as we scroll. So I'll press Command K and add a div. I will name this frame, and this will be 100 VW and 100 VH. So that way it takes up the whole width of the screen here, and I'll make the position of it fixed, and I'll click top for the positioning. So that way once it hits the top, it'll stay in place as the user scrolls. So within this, now I'm going to add that little container that the heading lives in. So I'll do Command K again, another div. I'll name this Marvel logo container, and this guy will be 70 VW and about 500 pixels tall. And just to make sure this lives in the center, I'll target the frame and I'll make this a flex container. And now you'll see this is perfectly in the center. I'm going to give the Marvel logo container a 5 pixel white border and a box shadow just so it has some dimension. I'm just going to fade this down a little ways so it's not too intense. Inside our container, I'm going to add a heading. This will be an H1, and I'll make it say Marvel, obviously. You can center that. Now, if I just go to our project settings, Webflow makes it super easy to add any custom fonts. So I already found the Marvel font, and I just have it as a TIFF file, so I'll just upload that guy. Now I go back to my designer, and I can click on that, and it'll be in my new fonts as a dropdown. I don't know why it's called DJ83, but it's the right thing. And I'll just make it all caps, and that's what we're looking for there. So I'm gonna make the size of this 44M, and when using M's, remember it's looking to the parent element to see what size is set for that. So this lives inside the container, and I've got a size of 12 pixels. So basically 1M is equal to 12 pixels. So this Marvel logo is 44 times the height of 12 pixels. So you do the math there, but that's just a nice visualization to use. M's can be very helpful. And I'll make the line height unit list 0.9 dash, and I'll give this some top margin as well. So that way it lives in the center. Every font is a little different when you download it, so just play around with the measurements there. So I'm also going to add a few layers of this logo, and this is going to help with our interaction later. So one of the reasons being that the text shadow that I want to give and fade in later, you can't target a text shadow in a Webflow interaction, so when I fade the opacity of the heading, you see the text shadow beneath it, which makes it black. So if I make this white, I'm gonna give it a text shadow. If I fade the color of the text later on, you'll see that the shadow remains beneath it. So that's not the effect that I want to give. So I'm going to do a little cheating way of doing this. So there's going to be the first logo here, and then we're also going to want to have the one that has the static image inside it, right? So you'll see here there is a static image there. And then you still see that there is that text shadow that's fading in as we go. So that one is actually the bottommost layer. Though it's all different elements, it kind of gives the effect that's attached to the topmost layer. So the order will be this basic white one, so that way we can have it be transparent. I'm gonna put another one behind here. I'll just copy the class. I'll name this logo image background, and I'm gonna make sure this is positioned absolutely, and it doesn't know where to target itself, so I have to make sure the logo container is relative. And now it is positioned right behind that logo. I'll make sure all the Z indexes are stacked as well. So I can make this one 3. I'll make the background image one 2, so it lives behind that one. And then I'm going to paste a third one in here, and I'll duplicate this class. I'll make this logo shadow, and this will be absolute. And this one will be 1. And now I can give this bottom layer a text shadow. This will make more sense later when we add the interactions, but for now, I've got the 3 Marvel logos stacked on top of each other, and they're all going to serve different purposes. So in this H1, I'm going to give this a background image, and I'm going to choose just one of our images here. I'll cover and center that, and then make sure we're on the logo image background, and I'm going to give this a clipping property, clip background to text, and this one's on top of it so you can't see it. If I hide that, you'll see that that guy is in place there. There we go. So then we'll be able to see that once the other one becomes transparent later on. So we've got white, we've got background image, shadow, and then the last element is I'm going to put that video inside this container. So that way we have that video kind of sparkling through just like we're used to. So I'll just do Command K. I'll add a background video here. I'll make the height and the width 100%. Again, I'll make the position absolute, so it lives inside the container that's set to relative, and that is the Marvel logo container. And I'll just pick a background video, and as it transcodes, I can still do some other edits and work on things, but I'll set the Z index of the background video to 0. So that way you can see here we go from 3, 2, 1, 0 in terms of Z indexes. So that way everything stacks the way we want them to. And when I preview this, you'll see that there is that video right there, and that's playing. Beautiful, and we'll have that appear later on. So next thing we can do is work on the comic book track that's going to live behind all of this. So I'm going to make sure I'm in my body, and I'm going to add another div, and this will be comic track. I'm going to make the height of this 700 VH. So that way it's pretty long and gives us a lot of room to scroll. And within this div, I'm just going to add 8 images, and they're all going to be 100% width. So I can give them all the same class, which will help. So I've gone ahead and added all the images. So there's 8 images. They're all stacked right on top of each other in that 700 VH frame. So now when you scroll to the bottom, those are where all the images will live. And this fixed screen holds our Marvel logo, so that stays in place. So now that our structure's in place, we can work on the interaction part of all this. So we're only going to target one thing here, and it's going to be our comic track. So this is the thing that we're going to be scrolling throughout. So I'll just go over here to element trigger, and I'll do, while scrolling in view, we're targeting the big long track here, and I'm going to play a scroll animation. I'm going to start a new one. I'll just name this comic scroll. So now everything that we put in here will happen as we scroll down the full length of this. So we're just going to target things to fade in and out as we go. First thing I'll target is the comic track itself. Make sure I'm on the comic track, and at 0% of the scroll, I'll just affect the sizing. I'm going to make the width 200 VW, just so that it looks like it's kind of shrinking into place along the interaction. And then by the bottom, it'll go back to its normal size, which is 100 VW. Remember, if you ever get one of those little yellow error icons, it means your units aren't matching. So I had that in pixels for a second, and this one was saying VH, so it yells at you if you don't match up your units. I'm also gonna target the track's opacity, so that way it kind of looks like it's fading in. I'm gonna do this for a lot of different elements, so I'm gonna make the opacity 0% to start, and by the time it gets to the bottom, I'll make the opacity 100. I want to have that logo container start a little bit bigger and shrink into the screen as well. So I'm going to target the Marvel logo container. I'm going to have it scale 2 times the size in the beginning. And then when it gets to the bottom, I will have the scale just return to 1, which is its normal value. And I'm also going to do that same opacity trick here to make it look like it's fading in. So 0% at the start and then 100% at the bottom. I'm going to target the frame, which is this window that stays in place, right? The one holding this Marvel image. I'm going to target its background color. I'm going to have it start as transparent so we can see all the comic book images behind it. And by the end, I'll have it be that maroon color, so that way it finishes with that nice look. Next, I'll target the logo itself. So I'm going to target that first, that top layer, which is the white one, right? I'll have this start as transparent. So that way we can see that image first, right? Remember the image that's layered beneath it? And then by the end, it'll become the white color that we want. Great. So let's target the image one next, the one that's beneath it. So we're going to want to see that. So at the beginning, let's have it be 0 opacity, but then we want to see it in the middle and then fade out, right? So in this finished version, we see how first the text, you see the picture, and then it turns into white by the bottom. So we want to have the picture be 0 and then see it and then disappear. So with our logo image background selected, somewhere around, let's say like 63, change the opacity to 100. So that way it fades all the way up by then. But then by the time it reaches the bottom, I'm going to have it fade back to 0. So that way we just see the clean white. The shadow layer is easy, and that one's just going to start at 0 at the beginning of the scroll and fade up to 100, just like a lot of the other elements. And again, the reason for doing this is that when the Marvel is transparent, you'll see the black shadow behind it, but we don't want that. So this way the layer just appears behind it, but then the shadow peeks out and looks like it's attached to the topmost layer. Now let's target the background video opacity. It'll be 0% to start. And then same thing like the text, I'll have it show up a little bit near the end of the scroll, let's say 88%. That's when I'll have it be 100 and then fade out by the time it reaches all the way at the bottom. So we finish strong with the clean one. And then that red bleeds through because the video is transparent by this point. But I'm also going to add another stop around 40% here. And that way I'll just make this one 0 as well. So now it'll remain hidden up until this point. It's not going to be slowly fading into view all the way through the 88% mark. This way it'll be 0, 0, 0, and then from 40 to 88% of the scroll, it'll start showing up into view. And then it'll fade out. So we can always turn the live preview on here and see this in action. So you'll see here how the images are sort of taking precedent and appearing over the logo. We don't want that. So let's just go into our tab here, the comic track. Let's lower the z-index of this because now it's appearing on top of things. So let's just make it -1 on the z-index, and that way everything will be stacked on top of it. So I'm going to publish this just so it's a little bit cleaner because there's a lot of big images that are trying to be loaded here. So let's just go to the finished one just for a cleaner preview. So you'll see here we've got the faded background to start with. As I start scrolling, you'll see that the container starts shrinking inwards and then the Marvel logo appears. It has the background static image in there. The video starts being visible right there, a little bit halfway through. We're still scrolling all the way down. And now the image inside the letters starts disappearing. And then the video will start disappearing. The red background is becoming more dominant, falling to 100% opacity. And then by the end, you'll see we've got the classic Marvel logo that we're used to. And that shadow on the lettering is appearing through the bottom there. And if I scroll up, it does the whole thing in reverse. So you can kind of play around with it and see how it works. But there we have it, the Marvel opening scroll. So just some tricky layering and structural things. Once you get everything in place, it's not too bad. Interactions can give you a lot of power and let you build some really cool things. So use background videos, clip to text, or scrolling interactions to bring your site to life even more. And if you enjoyed this, check out another video I did that was a little similar. I did the Star Wars opening title scroll, and that one was a little different. It utilized some skew properties and angles, so check that out if you want to learn more. And I also did a Jaws horizontal scroll, so similar structure, but a little different with the horizontal scrolling track interaction there. So check that out if you want to get some more practice. So thanks for watching. I'm so excited to see what the MCU has in store with all these upcoming projects. But until the next video, I shall just remain your friendly neighborhood web designer. Web, get it? Oh God.